And welcome into part 2. We're talking quarterbacks on, teams that are having some quarterback changes, what to do with their fantasy weapons. Can you trust them in the playoffs now that you have fantasy football playoff implications on the line here? If you lose, you're probably out. So you want to make sure you know which of these guys you can trust, which of these guys are going to be able to sustain some fantasy points. We just recorded part 1, so if you haven't seen part 1, you can check that out as well. I'm joined by Will. How are we doing?
Doing good. This is the week when fantasy owners learn to hate or love players the rest of their lives.
For the rest of their lives.
This is Grudge week for every fantasy owner. There's going to be a player that overperforms that you're going to fall in love with, and there's going to be a player that you'll never draft again.
Yep. Yeah, it is. And funny enough, the Panthers and the Vikings are both out of the quarterback conversation, which, at the beginning of the year, you weren't so sure. Maybe we'd be talking about the Panthers and the Vikings here. They both seem to be figured out for now. We're going to talk first about the Raiders. Desmond Ridder played last week against the Falcons, and they lost. Aiden O'Connell is probably going to be healthy this week. As a Brock Bowers owner, would you rather have Aiden O'Connell at quarterback or Desmond Ridder?
See, that sounds like a question that's a setup. Is there a correct answer to that? Is there?
To me, it's Aiden O'Connell. Brock Bowers had probably his worst game of the season last week against a bad offense. So to me, I would much rather have Aiden O'Connell. If you look at his 3 receptions last week, that's not what you want from the tight end 1 on the season. Last I checked, he was still the tight end 1, and he is still the tight end 1. So if you can have the tight end 1, you need to have somebody who's going to at least give him the targets. And Desmond Ridder was just not able to do that last week. They play Jacksonville this week. So if he's going to have a big game, it can be this week against Jacksonville. Their linebackers are not good in coverage. Whether you got Lloyd or Lucan, they're not there to be coverage guys. I like Bowers this week if O'Connell's starting.
But it's the Raiders.
But he's the tight end 1.
I agree. But it's still like, if he doesn't have a good game, are we going to be shocked?
If Aiden O'Connell's playing, I'd be shocked if he puts up another bad week. Look at him against KC with Aiden O'Connell. He had 10 receptions, 104 yards, and a touchdown. He had a 25-point game and a half-point PPR.
Yeah, it's hard for me to get excited about anybody in that franchise.
That's fair. And then Jacoby Myers, another guy who's maybe been a flex play for you coming into the playoffs. Again, if O'Connell's playing, he's a flex play with upside. If he gets the targets, he could have a long catch or score. And if Desmond Ridder is starting, I don't think I want to touch anyone on this team now that Sincere McCormick's hurt as well. I'm not loving the running back situation. So if Desmond Ridder's playing, I'm avoiding all Raiders at all costs. And if O'Connell's playing, you start Brock Bowers, in my opinion, and you can possibly flex Myers, depending on your options.
So what you're telling me is every Raider or every Bowers owner in fantasy football is sending a last-minute note to Santa. All I want for Christmas is Aiden O'Connell.
That is what I would be sending to Santa, is to get yourself some Aiden O'Connell in that starting lineup, because, he will have some bad plays, but he's going to put Brock Bowers in a position where he can continue to succeed. And I think that's really all at this point in the Raiders season. That's all they need, is just Brock Bowers to just do okay. And then we got another team that doesn't really have too many fantasy stars outside of Alvin Kamara so far this season, and that's the Saints. We got Spencer Rattler, who you have on your dynasty team, is now probably going to be starting for the rest of the season after we saw from Hayner last week. I don't think they go back to him. Carr's out. So this is now Spencer Rattler's team for the next couple of weeks. Are you, it's a super flex league that we play in. Do you feel comfortable with Rattler? Maybe not this week against Green Bay, but next week against Las Vegas. And is there any receiving options for this team? Like maybe do you play MVS if you really need a deep play? Maybe not this week, but next week against Las Vegas.
I just have no faith in the Saints going into Green Bay this week.
No.
I think the offense you're not going to get any fantasy production from anyone this week.
Maybe Kamara will get some checkdowns. He had, 5 catches or 4 catches last week.
So what do you think the score is at halftime? 24-0.
21-0. 21-3. And the Saints.
I guess that means they have to try to pass if they're trying to win the game.
I think Alvin Kamara will get receiving volume. Yeah. I think that'll be it. And unless that game gets too far out of hand and then it just turns into the Kendre Miller show, trying to see what they have in him. And the Saints did just sign former first-round pick today, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, he probably won't make his entrance this week.
See this. We're supposed to be going into Christmas, and we're talking about names that should be on the no gift list. Like, are we really talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Really?
I mean, if he comes in and he's a part of the offense at all next week, it hurts Alvin Kamara's fantasy value. There's no position where I'm ever touching Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he hurts Alvin Kamara, in my opinion.
We should just be telling owners to go pick you and me up if we're available in their fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
Because this conversation, this is a bah humbug. Like, really? God help. I feel so bad if you are in your playoffs and you look at that roster and you look at those schedules and you're like, oh my God. And I own Rattler. I just think this is a bad week to have to depend on any Saints player with the situation they're in.
Mm-hmm. Like I say, if you have Kamara, you're playing him, but that's
right.
That's
if you had Carr playing, like, okay, yeah, the Packers are hot, but Saints are probably going to put up 17, 21 points, and so who's getting those points, right? If I'm Rattler, like, really? Y'all couldn't wait one more week to play me? This is the week you're going to put me in. Okay.
Yeah. Next week against Las Vegas looks a little better for Rattler. It should be a little bit easier of a matchup, and maybe some more points will be scored. Yeah, this week I am not excited about the Saints offense. So there's 2 more quarterback situations. We talked about 3 on the previous show. So if you have any fantasy players on a team that has some quarterback questions, new quarterback starting this week for the first time, maybe a guy who was benched and now has come back, go check out that show. If you enjoyed this one, thanks, Will, for joining. We won't be back next week because it's Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. And we'll see you in a couple weeks in the new year.
All right, buddy. Merry Christmas. Thanks, Zach.